Good afternoon everyone students. Yesterday we completed the polymers classification based on their source and based on their composition of monomer and based on their structure, based on their mechanism. Like that we have classified. One more classification lastly I said, which we are going to be depending upon their degradability. Their degradability. We can have two types: biodegradable non-biodegradable. We are having two types of polymers are there based on their degradability: biodegradable, non-biodegradable. What do you mean by biodegradable? What do you mean by non-biodegradable? So biodegradable means degraded by a microorganism. So what is usually going to be a recycling process we are going to have? We are having the recycling process like we are having any compound is going to be present in our nature that is going to be get decomposed by the microorganisms which are present. Usually what we are going to do after the usage of that particular compound, we are going to throw. So that is going to be present in the soil. When they are going to have the soil is going to be consisting of microorganisms. We are having fungi, we are having the bacteria, so many microorganisms we are having. These microorganisms are going to interrupt with the mechanism of those particular substances, and these substances are going to be get metabolized by the enzymes which are released by your microorganism. Say for example, if you are having cellulose is present, that cellulose is going to be get decomposed by the microorganisms which are going to be present in your termites. They are going to decompose that one. So now the decomposition is going to make that particular substance will be get absorbed into the soil. So now these absorbed substances can be recycled so that we can able to get the few more substances from that one. Similarly, the polymeric substances which we are having after the usage of those polymers, if you are throwing into the nature, that is on soil, now if a microorganism can able to degrade that particular polymer, we are going to call that one as biodegradable. If we are going to be throwing the substance and that is not able to be decomposed, then we are going to call that substance as non-biodegradable. In polymers also we are having like that, biodegradable polymers, non-biodegradable polymers. Biodegradable polymers are the polymers which are going to be get decomposed by the microorganisms are called as biodegradable polymers. Which are not able to be get decomposed by the microorganism, they are called as non-biodegradable polymers. They are called as non-biodegradable polymers. So that is how we can able to divide them. What are the examples we are having? All your biopolymers can be comes under biodegradable. What are the biopolymers they are having? Starch, cellulose, protein, nucleic acid. Whatever you are going to have the polymers which are present in living organisms, all of them are able to be comes under the biodegradable polymers. And maximum synthetic polymers are going to be comes under non-biodegradable. PVC, polythene, that is what we are going to have nowadays. A lot of problem for the pollution is polythene only, which is not going to be biodegradable. That's what we are having the problem. Still all synthetic polymers are comes under non-biodegradable polymer. But certain synthetic polymers also comes under biodegradable polymer. The best example we are having for that is PHBV and nylon 2, nylon 6. These are comes under biodegradable polymers. Even though they are synthetic, they are going to be comes under biodegradable polymers. PHBV, polyhydroxybutyrate covalerate, hydroxybutyrate covalerate is going to be PHBV. Nylon 2, nylon 6, it is going to be formed by glycine and aminocaproic acid. So that is going to be comes under nylon 2, nylon 6. These two are synthetic polymers, but even they are going to be comes under biodegradable polymers. And non-biodegradable polymers, they are going to be get accumulated in nature, so they can't be get. Whereas here all these biodegradable polymers, the enzymes liberated by your microorganism can able to make that one into small pieces, so that that is going to be get recycled. That's what we are having. We'll see the importance of PHBV and nylon to nylon 6, how we are going to have these two. So what is PHBV? Polyhydroxy butyrate covalerate. What do you mean by co? It's a copolymer. What is copolymer? I said copolymer is going to be alternatively we are having the monomers, we are going to call them as copolymers. That copolymers are going to be again alternate copolymers, block copolymers, graft copolymers, like that we are having. It is comes under alternate copolymer, that is AB type. Like this we are going to get one monomer, then monomer, then monomer, then monomer, then monomer, then monomer. It is going to be alternate. If you are going to have like this AAA, BBB, AAA, BBB, like it's called as block copolymer. It's like block copolymer. Similarly, random copolymer. So that many things are not required for us. So the polymer what you are discussing here, polyhydroxybutyrate covalerate, is an example for alternate copolymer. That is one monomer, the next monomer, one monomer, next monomer. Like that we are going to get. Alternatively the monomers are coming. So polyhydroxybutyrate and valerate. We are going to take this one. How we are going to write hydroxybutyric acid? Beta hydroxy. We are going to take beta hydroxy covalerate. We are going to take. Now this is carboxyl group. Adjacent carbon is called alpha, adjacent carbon is called beta, adjacent carbon is called gamma. It is a beta hydroxybutyric acid. So that's why I have kept in beta position. If you want to give the IUPAC name for this compound, (3-hydroxy-butanoic acid). It's a 3-hydroxy-butanoic acid. It's going to be combined with now it is how many carbon? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it is going to be valeric acid. 5 carbon carboxylic is called as 5 carbon carboxylic acid is called as valeric acid. 4 carbon carboxylic acid general name is butyric acid. Thus it is beta hydroxybutyric acid. It is going to be beta hydroxy valeric acid. It is going to be beta hydroxy valeric acid. Common name I can able to write 3-hydroxy pentanoic acid. 3-hydroxy pentanoic acid. Now the alcohol and ester, whenever it is going to be present, they are going to be alcohol and acid, whenever it is there, it is going to be giving its ester form, that is by taking out the water, condensation polymer. It's a condensation polymer. So what I'm going to get here, this is what I can give the name of the structure of the compound as like this. So just I am going to write one with having ethyl group and another one is going to be methyl group alternatively comes. That's it. We are going to have. See here, this part is going to be butyric acid. This part is going to be valeric acid. Now what is going to happen? One butyric acid, one valeric acid. One butyric acid, one valeric acid. Like that it is going to be get polymer and it comes under polyester. It comes under polyesters. It is going to be PHBV. PHBV is nothing but polyhydroxy butyrate covalerate and this is going to be formed from two hydroxy acids. One is 3-hydroxy butanoic acid, another one is 3-hydroxy pentanoic acid. When these two are getting reacted and they are going to form the polyester, its nature is polyester. Ester is going to be repeated so many times that it is called as polyester, so that I can able to get the polymer name PHBV, polyhydroxy butyrate covalerate we are going to get. Okay, what is the use of this PHBV? The PHBV is going to be useful for the capsule preparation which you are using it. In tablets you are going to have pills and the capsules. That capsule what we are going to have, everyone seen, no? Everyone has seen, I think. The capsules what you are having, they will be made of some plastic thing is there. How the plastic is going to be get digested? That's the doubt we are going to get now. So actually what is going to be happen? The coat what it is going to be having the capsule is prepared by using PHBV. That PHBV is going to be degraded by the microorganism. So what we are having gut, in that gut we are having certain microorganisms and even we are having the enzymes inside your stomach. Those enzymes can able to digest that coat. Then the drug is going to be get released. The drug inside the capsule can comes out. Then it is going to do its action. That coats are going to be prepared by PHBV. That is what we can able to say the importance of your PHBV. Now coming to the nylon 2, nylon 6. Nylon 2, nylon 6 is a polyamide. Nylon 2, nylon 6 is a polyamide. What is polyamide? Where we can able to see the amide linkage many times. Here now what we have seen? It's an ester linkage. It's an ester linkage. Now what I am saying it? It's a amide linkage, polyamide. Nylon 2, nylon 6 is going to consist of CH2COOH, NH2. It's a glycine and aminocaproic acid. Five times COOH. Now, so what is this one? Glycine. This one is aminocaproic acid. Caproic acid is the common name of 6-carbon carboxylic acid. 1-carbon carboxylic acid is called formic acid, 2-carbon is called acetic acid, 3-carbon propionic acid, 4-carbon butyric acid, 5-carbon valeric acid, 6-carbon caproic acid. Anyway, we will see this one when we are going to discuss the nomenclature. Just remember now what is required. Valeric acid means 5-carbon, 4-carbon means butyric, 6-carbon means caproic. These three names you are supposed to remember it. Now when glycine and aminocaproic acid are going to give condensation polymer, what you are going to get here? This is going to be NH CH2 CO NH CH2 5 times CO. Now like this I can able to make. Whenever you are going to have nylons, always you are giving the numbers based on what monomers are involved. The nylon 2, it is indicating 2 carbons of glycine. Nylon 6, it is indicating 6 carbons of your amino caproic acid. That's why this is going to be called as nylon 2, nylon 6. That is how I am going to have the polymeric structure of nylon to nylon 6. It's going to be the combination of glycine and amino caproic acid, which is going to be nylon to nylon 6. It is going to be a best replacement for catgut. I think everyone of you are aware of that catgut. Catgut is nothing but stitches. Whenever we want to make the stitches, then we are going to use catgut earlier days. Now a synthetic polymer nylon to nylon 6 is a good replacement, as it is going to be biodegradable, so it can able to absorb into the skin, so that we are not having any problem of this particular polymer when you are using it for a stitching. So that is the main purpose you are going to have from the nylon to nylon 6 and PHPV. PHPV is used for the capsules preparation. Nylon to nylon 6 is useful for making the threads which are useful for making the stitches. So this is the biodegradable polymer. Already we said non-biodegradable polymer, maximum synthetic polymers are non-biodegradable only. We are going to have non-biodegradable only. PLA we are having polylactic acid, polyglycolic acid, the other examples of biodegradable polymers where you are using the combination for the stitching only. So that's about your biodegradable and non-biodegradable polymers. Next one we are having is rubber. So the rubber is nothing but elastomers. Already we said they are nothing but elastomers. They are having the elasticity property. That elasticity property containing rubbers we are going to have two. That is natural rubber are having and synthetic we are having. Natural rubbers and synthetic rubbers. We are having the two types of rubbers, natural and synthetic. When we are going to take natural, what they are? The rubber which is going to be obtained from the nature, they are called as natural rubbers. The natural rubbers, when we are going to take, the natural rubber is going to be obtained from the tree bark. It is obtained from the tree bark latex. Natural rubber, what it is? Rubber tree. Rubber tree is nothing but Hevea brasiliensis. So that Hevea brasiliensis tree bark is going to be cut. Then we are going to get the latex. From this latex we are going to get the rubber by coagulation. By coagulation. So what do you mean by coagulation? It is going to be settling down property of a particular compound is called as coagulation. So if it has to coagulate, this should be having colloid. What is latex? It's a colloid of rubber. Latex is nothing but colloid of rubber. That is, rubber particles are going to be negatively charged. So they are negatively charged. So negatively charged rubber particles are going to be dispersed in your solution. That's why the latex is nothing but a colloid of rubber. So this colloid of rubber is going to be get coagulated. That is going to be by suitable method or suitable means. So that we are going to get, by boiling only we are going to do obviously the latex. We are going to get coagulated. So that coagulated one is going to be considered as rubber. How this rubber is going to have these many elasticity properties. Obviously, rubber is nothing but chemical composition. If you are to see, it's a polyisoprene. It is nothing but polyisoprene, the natural rubber. How we are going to get? CH2 double bond CCH3, CH double bond CH2. This is called isoprene 2-methyl 1,3-butadiene is nothing but isoprene. N number of isoprenes are going to be get polymerized, and we are going to get, see, this double bond will shift like this, this double bond will shift like this. Obviously one more is going to be get joined. I can represent this one with CH2 single bond CH3, and I am going to have now here the double bond CH and CH2. So if I want to make one more monomer to be joined, CH2 CH3 double bond CH CH2. So this is one isoprene, this is one isoprene. Now this addition polymer, it's nothing but an addition polymer. We are going to have excuse me. Now when we are going to have the polyprene, we are going to call it as polyprene or polyisoprene or cis polyprene. Everywhere whenever we are going to take the double bond carbon, now I can able to give the geometrical isomerism for this one. In every case it is going to have the CH2 I am having the comparable group. Now these two CH2s are always going to be in cis. So cis polyprene. The natural rubber is going to have cis polyprene. How this cis polyprene is going to be existing? It is always going to be every double bond CH2 group, they are going to be present in cis form. So that's why it is going to be called as cis polyprene is the natural rubber. And at least we are going to have some 5,000 units of isoprenes will be there. Approximately I can have 5,000 monomers will be present. In one natural rubber you are taking, I can have total 5,000 monomeric units can be present in a natural rubber. Now, some sort of natural rubber which we are going to have, what are the properties we are able to get for this compound? What we can able to have the properties when you are going to take the natural rubber. Natural rubber can be dissolved in non-polar solvent, solubility in a non-polar solvent, and it is going to have less tensile strength, and this is going to be easily attacked by oxidizing agents. Easily attacked by oxidizing agents. So we are going to have the properties. They are having the high heat, they are not resistant, and they are not able to be resistant to high heat. Less resistant. Resistant to heat is less for this one. When the natural rubber is there, when we are going to take the dissolving ability, that is they can be soluble in non-polar solvent, and it is going to be less tensile strength, and it is going to have easily attacked by oxidizing agents, and it is going to be resistant to heat is less. Resistance to heat is less. So because of these properties, the rubber we can't able to use it for so many purposes. Because at high heat I can't able to use rubber, or if you are going to make a certain thing a longer one, or when you are going to make the more weight, it is also not possible. So because of this, I want to improve these properties of rubber, natural rubber, I want to improve. So in order to do this improvement, I am going to follow the process called vulcanization. I am going to call the process called vulcanization. By means of vulcanization, I can able to improve these physical properties of the natural rubber. So what do you mean by vulcanization? Vulcanization, what it means? Just it is nothing but heating of rubber in presence of sulfur, and as a catalyst we are using either zinc oxide or stearic acid. We are going to use stearic acid or zinc oxide, that is going to be making the catalysis of that sulfur addition to your rubber, and that rubber is going to be get vulcanized. How it is going to be getting vulcanization? The sulfur is going to make disulfide bridges between, say for example, I am having one more natural rubber. So this is one more natural rubber if you are taking. There will be inserted wherever you are having the double bonds. There I can able to make, sulfur will make the cross linkings for them. So because of these cross linkings, till now the natural rubber is like this. Now it is becoming cross linked polymer. Like this it can able to get cross linkings between one to another. Till now it is going to be linearly arranged. Now they are compactly packed because of the cross linkings formed by the sulfur. Cross linking formed by the sulfur. Because of this, the natural rubber is going to have these physical properties. When a vulcanized rubber if you are taking, that is going to have all these characters will not be there. That is, it is dissolving non-polar solvent, it is less soluble now, vulcanized rubber, less tensile strength. Now the vulcanized rubber will have more tensile strength. Now easily attacked by oxidizing agent, so now it is not going to be easily oxidized by attacking agents, and it is more resistant to heat. And we are going to discuss one more thing, how much vulcanization we are doing it, that much characteristics only the physical properties will be developed. If we are going to have the rubber with 1 to 3% sulfur, everyone understand vulcanization, I hope. The vulcanization is nothing but addition of sulfur to your natural rubber, so that sulfur is going to make bonds between, the cross links are going to be established between double bonds, wherever it is there, it is established in the double sulfide bridges, or we are going to get cross links, so that the rubber is going to get more tensile strength and high resistance to the heat, and it is able to be get prevented from the attack of oxidizing agents. Now when we are going to have 1 to 3% sulfur, it is going to be vulcanized, it is soft and stretchy. This rubber is not that much hard, it is soft and stretchy, so that this vulcanized rubber 1 to 3% can be useful for making the rubber bands. It can be useful for making the rubber bands. And if I am making some 5 to 7% vulcanization, that is, I have added some 5%, vulcanization is added to your rubber. So now this is going to be more rigid, so that I can able to use for tires preparation, manufacturing of tires. I think you can able to find out the difference between the rubber band what you are using, that is going to be very soft and stretchy, and wherever you are using the 5 to 7% vulcanized, that is going to be hard. Tire rubber, tire is going to be very hard. That's what you can able to see. And you can have more vulcanization is going to make it so hard, which is called as ebonite, which is useful for battery case. I think every one of you have seen your inverter batteries or car batteries what you are having, and outside you are going to have plastic. So it is not actually plastic, it's a rubber. That rubber is going to be ebonite, that is vulcanization. Some 25 to 30% vulcanization is going to be taking place so that it is becoming so hard. That hard material you are using for battery case. Battery casing what you are having outside that is a battery rubber. That is going to be battery rubber. It's not the plastic. That is going to be formed by ebonite. Ebonite is going to be giving you this battery white case what you are having. Understand? So this is about your rubber and vulcanization. Rubber and vulcanization. Now, some part of natural rubber is going to be existing in so now it is going to be CH2, trans. Now this CH2 is in trans. So some part of your natural rubber can existing in trans form, which is called as gutta percha rubber. It is going to be called as gutta percha rubber. What is gutta percha rubber? This is nothing but a rubber, natural rubber, which is existing a small segment in trans configuration. Earlier what I said, all CH2s are on the same side, that is going to be called as cis polyprene. That is going to give you the natural rubber cis polyprene. But a small segment of rubber which is going to be existing in trans configuration, that is called as gutta percha rubber. That is one special name we are giving it, just we are supposed to remember it. Understand? These are all comes under natural rubber. What you are having, it's a natural rubber. Regarding the natural rubber, we can have one question like ozonolysis. If you are doing it for your natural rubber, what is going to be formed? And if you are doing it for a monomeric unit of natural rubber, what you are going to get? That is how we can able to get the question. For that, we are supposed to know it, the structure. CH2, CH3, double bond C, CH2, CH2, we are going to have CCH3, double bond CH, CH2. This is what the natural rubber, and the polymer is, sorry, this is only the polymer, and we are going to take monomer is this is isoprene and this is polyisoprene. Now if I am doing the ozonolysis for this one, reductive ozonolysis only I am talking about. Anyway, that ozonolysis thing we are going to discuss in your alkenes, then you can able to understand clearly. But here I am going to give easy method for identifying the ozonolysis product. Break wherever the double bond is there. Keep one O here, one O here. Keep double bond O here, O here. So what I am going to get from this one? H, C, double bond O, H. From this one also I am going to get same thing. And from this one, CH3, C double bond O, CHO. I am going to get formaldehyde. It is called 2-oxopropanol and it is called as formaldehyde. I am going to get here 2-oxopropanol and I am going to get methanol. Or you can call this one as methyl glyoxal. Methyl glyoxal common name. So what are the ozonolysis products of isoprene? I am going to get 2 moles of methanol and 1 mole of 2-oxopropanol I am going to get. If I am doing the ozonolysis for this one, what I said, wherever the double bond is there, break that one and keep O here, keep O here. And here also same thing, keep O, keep O. I will start writing from here. CH3, this C double bond O, this CH2 is remain same, this is CH2 will remain same, and the last one is going to be get converted to CHO. What is the name of this one? 4-oxopentanol. So what is the Vogel's product of isoprene? It's 2-oxopropanol. What is the polyprene? It's 4-oxopentanol. I hope everyone can understand this one. If you are not able to understand anyway, Vogel's mechanism we are going to discuss in alkenes, then we will say, but the bit can come a question like what will be the Vogel's product of these two. That's why I mentioned here. Polyprene is going to be 4-oxopentanol and we are going to have 2-oxopropanol. So that's what we are supposed to remember in the case of natural rubber what you are having. And the next one is synthetic rubber. Next one is synthetic rubber. What you are having is synthetic rubber? We are having the 1,3-butadiene can also be get polymerized. 1,3-butadiene. Poly 1,3-butadiene can be written. So instead of 1 CH3, I am using this one. So now this is going to be shifted like this, this is going to be shifted like this. I am going to have Ziegler-Natta catalyst. What is Ziegler-Natta catalyst? Titanium tetrachloride plus triethyl aluminium is going to be called as Ziegler-Natta catalyst. In presence of Ziegler-Natta catalyst, we are going to take the polymerization. N molecules of 1,3-butadiene if you are taking, I am going to get a polymerization of 1,3-butadiene like this. This is what I am going to have, the synthetic rubber one. Next one we are going to call it as neoprene. It is very important. The monomer is chloroprene. Monomer is chloroprene. So this is monomer, this is polymer. When you are going to take chloroprene, it is just nothing but isoprene methyl group is replaced by chlorine. So CH2 double bond CCl, CH double bond CH2. N molecules of this one is going to be get polymerized. We are going to get so this is called neoprene. It's called chloroprene and the artificial rubber which is formed is called as neoprene. So it's going to be chloroprene and upon polymerization I am going to get neoprene. So that is what the polymerization of natural rubber and the polymerization of artificial rubber. Still we are going to have buonion, buonious, acrylonitrile, styrene we are going to add up to butadiene. There also will be comes under the rubbers. Anyway, all these polymers I am going to give one table. So that table it will be having what will be the monomer, what will be the polymer and what will be the linkages we are going to have between them and what type of polymer it is. All those things will be there in a table that I will be displaying and I will be explaining. So anyway, that photocopy is going to be given to you so that we can able to follow. So remaining all polymers, what are we having? Polythene, we are having polyvinyl chloride, Teflon and all these buonions, they are all comes under poly addition polymers, polyenes they are. And we are going to have polymethyl acrylate and methyl acrylate we are going to have. Then we are going to have nylon 6 and Dacron. They are all comes under polyesters. They are going to be comes under polyesters. And we discussed certain polyamides also, that is nylon 6, nylon 26, nylon 6. They are all comes under polyamides. So these are all polymers. Along with this one, bakelite and navolac, formaldehyde resin. We are going to have melamine formaldehyde resin. All these list we are going to be giving a display their monomeric structure, their usage, and what will be the type of polymerization takes place. These are all the things, one table will be there that we are going to provide a Xerox for everyone. Anyway, I am going to display that one and I am going to explain. So that's what we are having, the polymers, various what we are having. But we are supposed to discuss one more point about this polymers is molecular weight. How to determine the molecular weight of your polymer. How we can able to determine the molecular mass of a polymer. Say for example, if I am having one particular substance, if I know the molecular formula, I can able to add up the things. Say for example, ethane is there, C2H6. 2 carbons are there, 6 hydrogens are there, that's a 24 plus 6 into 30. That is what you can able to say. If you know the molecular formula of a compound, then you can able to say it. But what the polymer is going to have? N. N number. What is N? We don't know. Isn't it? How many monomers are going to be combined to give that polymer? We are not able to say it. So that's why we can't able to say exactly the molecular weight of any polymeric chain, but we are going to take averages. That is number average molecular weight. We are going to take the average, number average molecular weight, or you can take weight average molecular weight. We can able to take the number average molecular weight or weight average molecular weight. So the number average molecular weight is going to be represented with Mn bar. It is going to be represented with Mw bar. How can we able to say the number average molecular weight and weight average molecular weight? Number average molecular weight is going to be given. Say for example, I got polymeric chains of different numbers of monomers and different molecular weight. Obviously, they are going to have. Say for example, one polymer is going to have N1 number of monomers are there. It's going to have the molecular weight M1. Second one, I am going to have N2 number and it is going to have molecular weight 2. Similarly, ith one is going to have ith number of monomers are there. It's going to have ith molecular weight. So I think we can able to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many monomeric units are going to be combined? We don't know. That's why say for example, one polymeric chain with 30 and it is going to have certain molecular weight. One is going to have some 40 and it is going to have certain molecular weight. One is going to have some 60, it is going to have some molecular weight. Like that I am going to take one polymeric chain is going to have N1 number of monomeric units with M1 molecular weight and N2 number of monomeric chains with M2 molecular weight and Ni and Mi. Like this if I am taking, I am able to get the number average molecular weight sigma Ni Mi by sigma Ni. How I can able to get this one? Sigma Ni Mi by sigma Ni is going to give the number average molecular weight. How we are going to get this number average molecular weight? So if you want to expand this one, N1 M1 plus N2 M2 plus so on Ni Mi divided by N1 plus N2 plus so on up to Ni. So I am going to have some 30 number, 40 number, 50 number, like that I am going to have. All that number and its molecular weight is multiplied and the number and its molecular weight multiplied. We are going to take sum of all those things and the sum of the numbers we are going to take. That is how I can able to get the number average molecular weight. But at least I have to determine the molecular weight of this particular one. For this one, we are going to use end group analysis method, or mostly I am going to use osmotic pressure method. I am going to use osmotic pressure method, which is going to be a collider, that is colligative property. So the number of particles are going to be varying the osmotic pressure. That's why for determining various numbered polymeric chains molecular weight. That is going to be done by using osmotic pressure or hand group analysis method. Mostly used is osmotic pressure method. So like that I can able to get the number average molecular weight for a given polymeric chain. And how to get weight average molecular weight? Same concept we are going to have. MW bar is equal to N1 M1 square N2 M2 square plus so on divided by N1 M1 plus N2 M2 plus so on. So I can write this one as sigma Ni Mi square by sigma Ni Mi. These two we are supposed to remember them. Number average molecular weight is equal to sigma Ni Mi by sigma Ni, whereas the weight average molecular weight is nothing but sigma Ni Mi square by sigma Ni Mi. So this is what way we can able to determine the molecular weight. We are not able to exactly do it. It is going to be average molecular weight MW bar, average molecular weight number it is Mn bar. This is how I can able to prepare. And this is going to be sedimentation method. Centrifugation method or sedimentation methods can be used for making the weight average molecular weights, so that we can able to get those values and we can substitute and we can able to get this one. By knowing this molecular weight of a substance or a polymeric substance, what advantage we are going to have? What advantage we are going to have? The advantage is polydispersion index. It's going to be polydispersion index. How to know the polydispersion index? So it's a ratio between MW bar and Mn bar. Polydispersion index. PDI is equal to MW bar by Mn bar. Polydispersion index, that is whether we are going to get every time the polymers are going to be formed in the same number of monomeric units, or they are going to have different monomeric units. Even though you wrote here N1, M1, N2, M2, M3, M3 like that, if you are getting many number, we can say that polydispersion is more. If it is not going to give variability, I am always going to get the same thing. I can able to say the dispersion is less. So monodispersion, polydispersion. If polydispersion index is equal to 1, then we can able to call monodispersion, that is having less diversity. Usually it is going to be for natural polymers. All natural polymers are going to have the polydispersion index almost equal to 1. If it is greater than 1, it can be synthetic. So it is not always going to be happen, but mostly we can able to say, if you know the polydispersion index, that can able to give you the information regarding whether that is going to be natural or synthetic. Most of the natural polymers are going to have the polydispersion index is equal to 1, whereas the synthetic polymers, when you are taking, they are going to have greater than 1. How will you know this one? If you calculate MW bar and Mn bar for that particular polymer, then if we can able to take the ratio of those two, if this is equal to 1, that is natural. If it is greater than 1, that is synthetic. This is how we can able to say the polydispersion index of a given polymer is going to explain whether it is going to be consisting of more diversity or less diversity. Understand? So this is about your polymers which we are going to have the nature. The natural polymers, synthetic polymers, everything we discussed. And I already said the polymers which we are going to have, many are there. So we are having some 21 to 23 list of polymers are there. That list of polymers I am going to display and I am going to explain. After you people coming here, just we are going to give the same Xerox copies for you so that you can able to read those polymers. Mostly from polymers, what you are going to get the question? Which of the following polymer is copolymer? Which of the following polymer is addition polymer? Which of the following is homopolymer? Which of the following is amide? Which of the following is going to have certain characteristic which is used for making the squeeze bottle, which is going to be used for CD. So all those things we have listed out in a tabular form. So the tabular form I am going to explain. Then after that, anyway, that Xerox copy is going to be given. Anyway, if you want to write it in your notes, that is most better. Just that will be seen in the next class. That number of polymers what you are having. These are all the general things what you are having in the polymers. Okay. I hope everyone understand this polymeric topic, and the table will discuss tomorrow's class. And any doubts you are having, just you can ask us in the interactive session. Thank you everyone.